Yo, they say the streets and the hill don't speak the same language, but in today's episode of the Hip Politics Podcast, we're going to prove them wrong. And I'm super excited, all the way from the east side of Indiana, Indianapolis, the one and only Congressman André Carson, who's also affectionately known as the Hip Hop Congressman, is joining us live today. Congressman Carson has been in office since 2008, representing the 7th Congressional District, which mainly takes up Indianapolis. Um, from the east side of Indy to the halls of the House of Intelligence, being the first ever Muslim appointed to House Intelligence Committee and the House of Representatives. He's a guest on it today. He's been bridging from the block to the ballot for almost 20 years. He's a former lawman, a senior whip in D.C., and he's a man who literally brought UFOs to the congressional floor. We're going to ask him about all those various things in today's episode. So I want to make sure you tune in. He doesn't do a lot of these deep dive interviews, but he's bringing billions homes to his district. He was prominent. Like I said, prominent supporter in the Obama years. He's known as a fiery speaker, even a former MC. He's going to talk about a couple things: the untold story of when he was inspiring MC and he met and had a real funny story with Tupac. He really talks and dives in on why the hip hop generation should care about what Trump's and his cronies are up to, and also why they should be voting. You do have power. And finally, Congressman is also as the co-founder of the Hip Hop Power and Justice Task Force, as the Hip Hop Congressional Task Force. Like I said, the first ever Muslim ever appointed to the House Intelligence Committee. He's going to talk about how he continues to break barriers in the halls of power. So I'm excited. I can also call this guy a friend. I've known him for 20 years almost. Since I was a junior staffer, I've had the pleasure and full disclosure to moderate his hip hop and politics panel for the last 4 years at the Congressional Black Caucus Annual Legislative Conference. So with that, I'm excited to kick it to this episode.
Hip politics, baby.
Bang. Shorty, you the no filter. IG pic, no filter. You could get the no filter. I'ma tell her how it is, no filter. Shorty, you the no filter. IG pic, no filter.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Hip Politics family. Again, I'm loving to share the screen, share some time with a person I can actually call a friend, a person I've been able to observe, has given me so many opportunities. This is had a million online and offline conversations in front of hundreds of people, and then also in the office. So it you know, sometimes when you do these interviews and conversations with people you've gotten to know over the years, it's interesting. But I wanted to. We've got Congressman, as you heard in the introduction, we've got Congressman André Carson of Indiana. Welcome, Congressman Carson, to the Hip Politics Podcast. How you doing today?
Hey, man, I'm honored to be here, man. Thank you for having me, man. We're so proud of what you do, man. We really are. You're moving the market, making history, brother.
Oh, thank you. And he gives the best compliments too. If he sees you and he knows you, he gonna give you a compliment. One thing before my first question is, you're one of the most active personally and professionally on social media. You always, I see you commenting our stuff, but I see you liking different things. I see you reposting both from your congressional, your official congressional page. So I know that's you and your team, but then also Andre Chronicles, where that's like your personal, but your personal professional, because you know, in your spot, everything personal is still professional and still out there.
Sure.
What is it about social media? Is that like how you stay tapped in? Because you more than any member, I'm like, you're in cultural conversations. I'm seeing you like and comment in cultural conversations and political conversations. People you know, people in the culture. Like, how do you stay so tapped in to what's going on across, like I said, across the culture?
Well, we have an excellent team, as you know, but also I think it's about, you know, who I am. And we had difficulty when I first got into office because of my personal background, my background when I was younger, activist background, and those kinds of things, and my belief system and it was very difficult to get coverage. And so, for all that people criticize and critique about social media, the benefit of social media, one of the many benefits, is that you can tell your own story. You could build your own entrepreneurial enterprise as you're doing, and you can tell your own story. And so, what we've attempted to do was kind of create our own narrative. And now you have the media picking up on cues from what's posted, without having to do the research or relying on a journalist to tell your narrative the right way. We're giving you the narrative. Now, the Andre Chronicles is probably more of a creative expression and more attuned to what I do on the creative side, and sometimes the personal side, even though it's very public facing. But it's a bit more street related. It's a bit more community. It's a bit more personal touch with human beings, because we're all living this experience. But I'm a real person, and while I represent this position very honorably and proudly, I still have a past as a human being. I still have a past as a failed MC. I have a past when I did a stint in law enforcement. I have a past as a young activist. I have a past of when I was arrested at 17 at a mosque, and the community came out to demand my release on a weekend when at that time you couldn't get out on the weekend. And so those things helped shape my activism and help make me who I am today by God's grace. And I had the blessing of being raised by my grandmother, who we lived in a very tough neighborhood, one of the toughest neighborhoods in Indiana, called Dodge City at the time. And it exposed me to a lot. And what I saw was that village served as a surrogate mother to myself and many people in the community. And I asked my grandmother one time about family. She said, baby, you're like me. The world's going to have to be your family. And so I think what you see is a result of me being a product of God's grace and the world, the global community. And the streets, my brother.
And the streets. Speaking of which, I didn't failed MC. I've seen you. I think I've seen you spit bars like one time at one of your CBC events. But to that point,
it was a Hakeem event with Clark Kent, DJ Clark Kent.
Rest in peace, Clark. Rest in peace to the legend. Working
a project with the now Lieutenant Governor of New York, myself, and him. And we thought about getting, Chantel on there. But, just I don't want to pull up too many receipts from you. I'm going to save it from the book. But this is, I was with a local group, Catch 22, opening up for Too Short. If you could spot me.
Oh, wow.
And this is an album cover. Actually, I don't want to
Hold up. Scoot over. Okay. Is this going to be in the book? This going to be in the book?
This is, there are a few known faces on there. You got Snoop Dogg's former tour manager on there. You got a very popular figure that I'm standing behind. I'm the godfather of his kids. But that's an album cover. There's more to the album cover. But the album cover was a play on Ice Cube's death certificate. I never performed on that album, but I was on the album cover.
Interesting. Oh, wow. I didn't even know that. So that goes right into, I think this is about to answer my next question.
It's controversial, brother.
What was controversial in the 80s, 90s, and even 2000s and moved into now. But this goes into my next question is, you're effectively known, and when I first came to Congress as a young staffer for the late great Eddie Bernice Johnson in 2009, 2010, you were newer to Congress then, but you were known as the hip hop congressman. And this is post Obama, where I think Obama was really, the Obama era was really the shift of where hip hop's been political since its inception.
Right.
But I think there was used to be a more adversarial political, if you go all the way back to the Clinton days and then like the Sister Soldier moments and how people were, see Dolores Tucker going after Tupac, and you had different religious groups and political groups smashing CDs in the 90s and 80s and so forth. going all the way back to the NWA and like the FBI and people coming after them. It was so adversarial until where you had politics be integrated. I really think, like I said, the Obama campaign in 08, 09 and his administration and what he represented, probably just by nature of being a black man in Chicago, but different elements you saw of were now hip hop luminaries, both at the time newer hip hop artists and even some of the forefathers of the culture, people of the culture were now integrated and using their voices in more political ways to support candidates, support platforms, not just all the way at presidential and all the way down, but you were the first person to take on the moniker of the hip hop congressman. And you mentioned that I think some of this, when you say being on these album covers, don't say a failed MC. You just were, just because you didn't go platinum don't mean you failed. Like I'm an MC in my heart, but I still don't have a good 16. You know me, 20 plus years.
You don't remember that? You used to send me bars.
I send you a couple. See, I got a couple. I'm a communicator, so I got a couple. I haven't put them together myself, but talk to me about why you embrace that and why you have, I mean, for the audience, and we've talked about it, posted on it over the years on our platform. And I want to say thank you again here for allowing me these last, 4 years to be your moderator for your annual Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. Your forum has been a hip hop and politics forum with various themes throughout every year, but you're going almost 20 years on that, 18, 20 years ish, or maybe even more. And so moderating that, where you've brought in artists, you've brought in well-known artists, people in industry, people in community, local artists, you're always integrating people from both the artist community and the community of Indiana and Indianapolis, entertainers, luminaries, to have these conversations, executives. I mean, I think about this year we had the former CEO of Parkwood Entertainment and the CEO of Versus, the Dame Dash moments who we had back in the day, but all these different people you've had over the years. You've really made that part of your personal identity, but also part of your professional and more specifically your congressional identity, various task force. Talk to me about where that came from and why that is I would say is, to me, that's as integral to you, who you are, as you being on the House Intelligence Committee or being on the Transportation Committee, or your religious, even your religious beliefs and so forth, and how you stand up there. You bringing hip hop into Congress for 20 years strong has been there. Talk to me through. I'm curious, why that started and why that has been such a deep conviction of yours.
Well, I appreciate the question. It's an important question. Hip hop, as you know, has always been a platform for marginalized voices. It's been a way to challenge injustices, articulate lived experiences, and inspire really collective action. Just as grassroots movements use hip hop to uplift community concerns, politics must listen, not just legislate. And events like the Hip Hop and Politics panel, which you host very, very well, thank you, show how cultural influences can be harnessed to increase political engagement. And the young people who love hip hop are not apathetic. They care deeply about issues regarding opportunities, injustice, fairness, and our job is to meet them where they are. It was born out of the influence that I saw with Maxine Waters and her Young Gifted and Black panel. Also, the hip hop summits put on by Russell Simmons and Dr. Ben Chavis and others. And when I came in, along with me being called a terrorist and un-American and somebody who was sent as a sleeper cell, along with Obama and Keith Ellison, to undermine our democracy, there were these attacks on me for having been a rapper, which now is a good thing. But at that time, it was another tool and an arsenal to demonize me and to really minimize my presence in the congressional space. And it was really me embracing it and ex- accentuating it, but lightweight trolling my critics too, because they were. I mean, coming from Indiana, right? It was meant as a slur. So it started off as me embracing it, but also trolling my critics. And hip hop has really influenced me because as a young rapper, battle rapper, who's I've been in different groups, opened up with groups for Too Short, The Brat, met Pac. I was there when Pac spoke at Indiana Black Expo. We went to the airport to pick him up.
What? Hold up,
Yeah.
for real? Tell that. Can you tell that story? Can you tell the Tupac story? Tupac's still in my top 5. I'm curious. Tell me.
Went to the airport with a few people. One of them is a guy who goes by the name of James, and he was Snoop Dogg's tour manager. I speak to him often, and he's been in hip hop for decades. He used to play for the New York Giants. He was like a big brother. There's another guy who was an artist. There's a popular Midwest group called Soldiers at War. Now, well, in the '90s, I was in another group with some of them prior to that, and went to the airport to pick up Tupac. And he was by himself when he got off the airport, and he was dressed like very preppy. He was quiet. And when we got to it was the Westin downtown. He was in the lobby with his crew because he met his crew there. And I remember being outside because we were doing security. Plus, we were low key artists, whatever. But we were doing security at the time. And now, mind you, I'm still in high school. So
wow.
My friend loved Tupac. I was an Ice Cube fanatic, still am. I love Pac. My friend was so I walked into the hotel because I had to use the restroom. Pac is on the couch. I see him on the couch with his crew, and they're just chilling, right? And so I walk by the front desk at the time looking for the restroom, and I go to this little corner thinking the restroom's there, and it's a wall. And I said, dang, I got to walk back around and walk in front of Tupac, who's on the couch. And I could feel them waiting for me to turn around. I walked around. I heard,
They got jokes.
At me, right? And his boy was like, man, he's like, man, I'm just clowning. Because obviously, I think he experienced the same thing. So I found Pac to be, he had a personality, man. Like, people were like drawn to him when he was at Expo. Now, I remember when he spoke, it was a youth summit that was put on by Indiana Black Expo in conjunction with Light of the World Christian Church. And Pac spoke, Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad was there. Some other greats were there. And Pac went off. I mean, now that's clipped. It was in his documentary. It's on YouTube. At the time, it was controversial because Pac was cursing. No other artist had gone years before, had cursed. Pac was giving it to him, Black Panther style, revolutionary style. I was right there on the side of the stage. When the camera pans, if it panned a little bit farther, you would have seen me on the side of the stage. But Pac was, I mean, he's like 3 years older than me. But Pac, man, he was just electric. He was a smaller guy, but he was so brilliant for that age, and his life experiences had informed his perspective. So he saw the streets and he saw the revolutionary side, and he was able to blend them together so beautifully, which made him such a great brother, man. Just a great human being. I was glad to have seen that, man. But met Cube, we opened up for Cube, The Brat, Spice One, Above the Law. I'm dating myself with some of these names, man. Just
no, I know. Above the Law, Black Superman. I still,
Superman, man.
Yeah, I remember. I mean,
easy getting them, yeah.
No, I mean that's to think you're definitely wholly unique in the U.S. Congress. I guarantee you, no one else definitely opened up and performed. Very few people even had those kind of experiences in the culture. And I always say, like, continue to lean into that, because we're in a time now where, as you I don't know if you've seen like the Nicki Minaj and being at Turning Point USA's, or what we just saw through the 2024 election, where when we were going up against Trump and Republicans, you saw folks who were super anti-Trump or anti-conservative, or I don't even want to say, I hate using liberal and conservative, but they were pro-community and they were not for a lot of things, especially I would say mostly on the Republican side, that they were not for, that you've now seen certain artists like embrace different for a variety of reasons. But the culture now has overly inserted itself, and not overly inserted itself. I would say the culture now is actually given it's not its proper place, but it's no longer as taboo. Artists are giving, sometimes they're informed ideas, and sometimes I would say they're misguided or uninformed ideas, but the culture's there. And you see them on candidate stages, you see them at community forums, you see the big name artists, you see locals, and you see a lot of politicians across the board trying to embrace, or at least stand next to them, because I think, do you feel that it's because there's still a respect for the culture, or is it about numbers, clicks, and audience? Because I think what you do, and I've seen this up close and personal, even with the panel over the last 4 years, you're not just like, hey, I need numbers, clicks, and audience. You're like, who actually is saying something matters. Great that they have audience, because I've pitched some names and it's like, oh, he likes this, but I don't care if this person is maybe more relevant or new or has a larger following. It's like, what are they saying? How are they actually informed? What are they working on? So I feel like you've had a good pulse on that. But as an observer of all of this, what are your thoughts on like where hip hop and how it's been integrated now in the current political and policy climate too, for that matter? Because think about 50 Cent was just up there, Usher was up there. They're actually going up there for policy as much as they are for the elected politics side of this, and like different people are there. Fat Joe, what he's doing with around healthcare and stuff. Like, as an observer of that, like, how are you seeing that evolution of the hip hop culture and hip hop artists and so forth being in both the politics and the policy side of stuff?
Well, I think it's a necessary evolution. I mean, I got to give a shout out to the pioneers of hip hop who paved the way. And, hip hop is more than entertainment. It reflects economic realities. It reflects social struggles and aspirations really across the country and the globe. And I think policy has to acknowledge culture as a driver of identity and engagement. We need political spaces where civic life and culture are partners, not adversaries. And hip hop fans don't have to check their passions and what they love and do at the door. We can channel it, harness it into voting, advocacy, and community leadership. That's not to tell people who they should support in terms of political party, but it is to acknowledge that there's a voting bloc that is formidable, that isn't going anywhere, that could tip the scales of a local, state, federal election.
Yeah. I think that when I thought about hip politics, and even when we started our nonprofit a couple of years, Hip Nation, it was around this simple data. It was that when you start looking at, take out your level in terms of federal, and you get below, say, a governor, when you start talking alderman, city council, sheriff's department, district attorney, city comptroller, lieutenant governor, maybe not even lower, that like state legislature. When you start really state by state, some of these races are won by dozens of votes, hundreds of votes, even the biggest ones, maybe a couple thousand. And you're going to tell me some artist who has 1 million, they don't even have to be a huge national artist now. They can acquire multiple millions of followers or hundreds of thousands of followers. If they cared about a city comptroller race in Indiana, like in some part of Indiana or in Oklahoma or North Carolina, you're going to tell me they couldn't shift a few hundred votes and down ballot? And that's what, when you think about that voting block and the power of to be able to shift elections. That's really where I think the political power of hip hop really lies, in terms of on the election side of like really putting leaders in office, especially down ballot.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of artists that I've spoken to, they deliberately shy away from talking politics, which I understand it, because they don't want to isolate, you know, certain portions of their fan base. And then you have other artists who are passionate about these issues, but they may not be comfortable talking about them in these spaces. And so I think we have to, and we've tried to create an environment that's comfortable enough to let them express themselves in their way. This is a revolution, and the old way of doing things doesn't work. I think the Democratic Party needs to evolve in 2026. It's past time. And that's really about policy, but it's also about messaging. You know, we're the party of the working class. We're fighting for Medicaid and SNAP. We're the party of good governance and democracy. And we want to keep communicating that directly with our constituents and across the country to kind of show what we're doing. Our office regularly returns thousands of dollars back to Indianapolis residents in the form of lost or even delayed benefits. I think we have some of the best staffers and caseworkers in the business who have relationships with other caseworkers and staffers from agencies, you know, at the end of the day. And, you know, fighting for local funding projects, from public health to sidewalks, is what we do. We are now seeing cracks forming in the Republican Party, and I think we need to hammer those cracks. Mike Johnson has lost control of his conference. He has more defectors, and so does Donald Trump. You have had loyalists like Marjorie Taylor Greene breaking. That's a sign of what's to come. And we're going to see more defectors, I believe. So it's important for Democrats to come in and say not just what we're against, but also what we're for. We passed the Affordable Care Act. We passed the largest infrastructure bill in modern history. We welcome debate on free speech. We don't have much power with the Republican majority in the House, but I think 2026 being an election year gives us an opening for change.
Yeah, well, to that, I think in your state has been key and really in the news into a larger conversation as you talked about that majority in the House, and it's been publicly stated multiple times by Donald Trump and the Republicans of them looking at redistricting, you know, and again with redistricting, like how I would say that the easiest TLDR of how this is done is every 10 years the census comes out, you see where people are where people are, if people have moved and so forth. Every state is given a certain amount of members of Congress. Obviously for everyone should know this in civics, but you never know these days. Every 2 senators, and then there's a proportional amount of members in the House of Representatives. But those district lines of where, because like for Indiana, for example, those district lines of where your lines are drawn, like who you represent, I'm sure have changed even over your tenure. Like the lines of like, is it in downtown Indianapolis? Is it in this neighborhood? Is it in another neighborhood, and so forth? And it kicked off in Texas earlier, well, like in summertime of 25, and there was it was famous, like the Texas state legislature migrated and went all the way up to Chicago and so forth, and they were trying to hold hostage of like, hey, we're not going to redraw these lines, because normally they're not drawn in the middle of an election cycle, right? In the middle of a governance cycle, let me change the maps to try to gerrymander and push out representation. That normally doesn't happen. Then you saw Gavin Newsom in California respond. And then your state, Indiana, jumped right into the line of fire because it was heavily seen. I think J.D. Vance, the vice president, Trump talked about it. I think Trump's son, either Eric or Donald Trump Jr., one of the 2 sons came to the state. There was a heavy push for Indiana to redistrict and try to draw you and Congressman Frank Marvan, who's up in the Gary, northern Indiana area, and you represent for just to let everybody know again, what areas do you represent in Indiana in
I
Congress?
represent Indianapolis, Indiana, the capital city. It is the second largest metropolis in the Midwest next to Chicago. It is the amateur sports capital of the world. We host the largest single sporting day event in the entire world, which is the Indy 500. So,
Yes,
you
sir.
know, uh,
And they
it's
try
a
to get you out. There was national talk about trying to get you out of here, and then I think there was just recently in December there was a vote that even I would say am I right to say this? The Republicans in that even in your state legislature also voted against this. Can you just talk about what that fight was and how that redistricting fight in your home state kind of plays into this larger something we just haven't quite frankly in politics have not seen in the middle of a cycle, people trying to draw people out of districts and going back tit for tat, state for state.
yeah. Yeah, there was an effort that Donald Trump initiated. Texas was the first to pass it. You had outside actors essentially from Washington D.C. put millions of dollars into trying to influence our state's electoral process. They wanted to redistrict mid-decade, and the voice of the people was far more powerful than any person. And we were thankful to God, and thankful to folks who wrote one letter or 20 letters or called a state lawmaker 5 times, 50 times, 70 times. It all made an impact. And the majority of Hoosiers didn't agree with this new unfair map. I mean, it would essentially carve up Indianapolis into 4 districts, which would have been Republican plus districts by at least 20%, 20 points. And, Hoosiers made their voices known at the State House. And there were Republicans, to their credit, who stood up and who were against it. And, I've said long ago, you being a Midwesterner, but Hoosiers are different. Indiana's a different state. We have an independent streak. Hoosiers don't like being told what to do from folks that they deem as being outsiders. And Donald Trump, he really thought he could bully and Debo his way into getting what he wanted in Indiana, and he can't. Hoosiers care about rising utility rates. They care about the price of health care, housing, and groceries. Hoosiers saw this redistricting attempt for what it is. It was a power grab that only helped Donald Trump, not Hoosier families. And, in my district, we have life sciences is our largest employer. We have a huge hospital, community health network. We have a growing tech hub that has become very sizable, and we're a transportation hub. And our community is the crossroads of America. So those divisive tactics don't work in Indiana, and they didn't, thankfully.
Do you think it's something that is going to come back up? Because I think we saw Texas, then the California and their that was on the ballot, and that how that passed, and now Indiana internally how that didn't get through. But I think it's still something that may happen. Like you've heard about in Ohio, you've heard it about in a few other states that this could potentially happen, and what redistricting looks like. Even in Utah, I don't know if you've been clocking that. Utah, they're redrawing some districts that actually may open up some competitive districts around Salt Lake City for Democrats, but they're trying to organize this map. I want that to lead into where I think kind of like my final area of final conversation. We're looking at a 2026 election cycle. We're looking at not just the election cycle, a governance cycle, where we're only 1 year into this last president, and we've seen so many things he stripped away. So many, essentially dismantling the Department of Education, USAID taking billions away from us, helping our soft power, helping so many places overseas. Hundreds of thousands of people losing jobs, hundreds of thousands of black women, black people, small businesses, farmers, education, him holding allocated funds that different states are supposed to get, whether it's for transportation projects, infrastructure improvement projects, web services. And I think that was something big we did in the Biden administration around getting a better Wi-Fi and really investing in that and withholding billions of dollars state by state, kind of based on political, even though this has been passed and come through Congress. We are in unprecedented times. It feels just like the government. This is different than the Tea Party. That's what I came into. I came into Congress as a staffer, seeing the Tea Party, which I thought was extreme in and of itself. This is different. This is MAGA 3.0.
That's right.
This is, you sit in a unique position. Like I said, you're a black man on the House Intelligence Committee, so you're getting info none of us are getting. So you understand the global threats of the world, transportation. You're in the culture. You're in the CBC, but you're in you. Like I said, you've been here for so long. You're in Indiana, which is salt of the earth, Midwest. I think it's got country. We're going in 2026 cycle and policy cycle where I'm just curious of like what you see as there's so much for us to focus on. I think we've really been trying to focus on this healthcare and how healthcare rates have just jacked up because of the Affordable Care Act. Subsidies ended. And I know I just saw, as a small business owner, I saw my healthcare rates go up an extra $900 a month. That's like, I got to find another client just to make sure, just to pay for my personal health care. And then I'm not married yet, no kids. And I couldn't imagine I've seen families of four, some that doubled. And so I feel like a lot of the emphasis has just been on healthcare to try to focus around things, but there's so many policy things. And then, are we going to even have an election after 2026? Is he about to send the troops to stop people from voting in places? I mean, we're seeing these armed troops be sent so many places. Like, it's so overwhelming for so many people.
Yeah.
I'm curious to like what you see as like the path forward, and maybe talk about what you plan to focus on both locally and nationally. Because like I said, you're here in Indiana, in the Hoosier state, but you're a national voice and you have a national platform, so you can set a tone from both Washington, but also set a tone locally and in the culture. Talk to me about what you see coming down the pipe in 26 and what you would encourage people to not just focus on, but to activate on.
Well, no, I appreciate the question. I mean, unfortunately, in a few weeks, we may see more than 20 million Americans see their healthcare costs skyrocket. The Congressional Republicans, along with their leader, Donald Trump, they don't have a plan. They're not even showing a plan where they're concerned about lowering healthcare costs. They're doubling down on these very destructive policies. And they're failing to really address to the American people a crisis that they helped create. And something has to be done about that. And I think what has to be done is that our messaging has to speak directly to people about why it matters. I'd hate for, because people aren't feeling it yet, I'd hate for the time to come where people are feeling it. Some are already starting to feel it, particularly people who were on certain medications where they paid maybe $50 a month. They've seen those costs skyrocket to $500 or more. And it's critically important that we have to look very clearly at an agenda that would extend the Affordable Care Tax credits in a way that benefits Americans. But our greater effort has to be done through mobilization. We're already looking at an exodus of Republicans from Congress. We've had as many as 20 House Republicans preparing to announce retirement in the upcoming weeks. So Donald Trump has already reneged on his promises. He's promised the American people that he was a candidate for the working class. He's promised to lower costs, which he hasn't done. All he has done has made life easier for billionaires, and to your point, He's involved America in foreign conflicts we don't belong in, and the American people are turning on him, as they should. His own party is turning against him. And as a reminder, Republicans already have the majority in the House, the Senate, they have the White House, they have the courts, the
I was
Supreme
about to
Court.
say, some people would say they got the Supreme Court too.
Absolutely. And they're not using those majorities to make life better for Americans. They're imploding as a party. And voters, I think, every day are seeing it for what it is. They see it as wasting time when there are very critical issues that need to be addressed. Affordability being paramount, the healthcare crisis being paramount, utility rates being paramount. I think the Republican Party has lost the trust of their own voters. And we're seeing a migration happen from minorities, black folks, who've been warning other folks about this experiment called America because history has shown repeatedly that we've had to fight to pave the way from folks who are benefiting from the Civil Rights Act, people who are benefiting from the Voting Rights Act. And now they're seeing and coming back saying we were duped, we were hoodwinked and bamboozled. The question is, how will the Democratic Party message to those folks and use them for an ultimate gain of the House of Representatives? Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Well, thank you, Congressman. This is again, I know this is probably, I won't say this is the end of the conversation. We'll put a pin on it because me and you go be a
You
conversation
already know.
consistently. I already know, but thank you for joining. I wanted to end here because this being your first time on the podcast. One, I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna dupe you publicly. Can I get you
Mhm.
back later this year?
We got to do it, man.
We
That's
got to
come
do
on. You already know the answer
it.
to
No, I'm
that,
just
my brother.
kidding. No,
Don't
I'm
hurt my
just kidding.
feelings
I
now.
gotta
Come
get you.
on.
I gotta get you back.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
probably something we putting together for CBC. But
Yes, sir.
something I always wanted to know. And you alluded to it here and there. Give me a song that you maybe a song or a couple songs, or give me the how better question. A song and at least one song and one artist before you going into a major speech, maybe a major vote, something you listening to quietly in your office or maybe in the car. You regularly step into major spaces. You know when speakers, performers, comedians, entertainers, politicians, pastors, people who are about to get in front of a whether large group, small group of people about to make big decisions. Music is almost always is often a common theme to maybe get their mind right, get their energy up, maybe calm them down, get the get some inspiration, get them right on that right level. I'm curious is there a song or something like whether I don't know if it's you do it before a big vote, I don't know if you do it for a big speech, I don't know if you just do it to calm down every day. Is there a song and is there an artist? Don't have to be the same thing that you regularly tap into um
Man,
as a member in all the spaces you're in. I'm curious about that.
it depends on the mood, my brother. I mean, I could go from Stevie Wonder I could go from Michael Jackson and Prince. I could go from Mary J. Blige, Shaka Khan. I could go from Tame Impala. I can go from Nas, Jay Z, Rakim Allah, Big Daddy Kane, Jay Electronica, Ice Cube, NWA, PE, X Clan, Wu Tang. Gotta have the Wu. I mean, I could play Billy Joe. I could play Seal. You know, there's so many, my brother. I could. You know, it just depends on my mood and how I'm feeling. If I'm in gladiator mode, I play gladiator music. If I'm in a smooth R&B mode, I play that. If I'm in a New Jack Swing mode, you know, I take it back to the junior high school talent show days. If I'm in a nostalgic feel when I'm hanging out with my Dukes, I put on yacht rock. You know, uh,
Okay.
if I'm ready to write and speak and deal with deep sciences and knowledge of self, I may put on KRS-One, I may put on Wu, I may put on AZ or King Sun or anybody from the God Body Nation. If I want to feel inspired, I'll put on some gospel and listen to Mary Mary or Kirk Franklin or, Ty Tribbett. It just depends. I may listen to
Okay.
classical.
Okay.
It's situational,
A Renaissance man, a well cultured, okay. You tapping all over the culture. I love it.
Listen, you may hear some Beyonce, Rihanna. You may hear Nicki. You may hear Megan. You may hear Cardi. I may hit you with some Swifty tunes. You never know, my brother.
Well, Congressman André Carson of Indiana, thank you so much. The original. Don't let anybody fool you. The original hip hop congressman, one of the founders of the Congressional Hip Hop Caucus. The Congression
You,
is it? Did I say it right? The Congressional,
the Congressional Hip Hop Caucus. Yeah, we did that with brother Jamal Bowman, good
bro.
brother, Hank Johnson, and so many others. Chantel Brown's a part of that, and Jasmine Crockett's a part of that. So many. Sister Nakeem out of Atlanta. I'm missing some names, but Yvette Clark out of Brooklyn. A lot of good people, man, are a part of it. Yep.
Somebody who's
And
been
you, brother, Reverend Yearwood, so
yeah,
many others.
Reverend. Yeah, thank you. So
Brother
much you've done
TC,
for.
original salute. Yes, sir.
Of course, so many people in the culture. So much you've done fighting for people in America, fighting for Black folks, fighting for all folks, fighting for the Indiana, fighting for Hoosiers in
Thank you, my brother.
Indianapolis. A longtime member of Congress, but somebody who, like I said, keeps his pulse on the culture. I thank you. I just want to give you your flowers again. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for continue to lead. Thank you for being unabashedly yourself and for standing up and utilizing your voice. Like I said, I think you've been forged in the fire, as you even talked about some of your earlier days and how you even came into this role. And I think that has served you so well to continue to have a strong voice. So I just encourage you to do that, because this is a year we're going to need more of that. So with that,
Thank you. Can I say this? I want to thank you again. I want to thank you as being a bridge for generations. And that's something that we try to do with the panel. We want to show our elders the respect, grace, and deference they deserve. But we also want the youth to feel appreciated, to feel listened to, and to feel respected, and to have a healthy balance of wisdom, experience, and vigor and electricity. And I think in an environment where our elders, as I'm engaging with more of them, and I'm getting older myself, I have a deeper appreciation probably that I should have had and didn't have when I was 20, 30 years younger, that I have now. And I think you carry that. I think it's a testament to your upbringing, but I think you carry that because I'm sure as you've matured and gotten more wisdom, you can see the insights that those who have gone before you and me have, that they weren't always wrong. Maybe their delivery wasn't the best. But I think now there's a disproportionate amount of attacks on some of our elders. A lot of these attacks are legitimate, but many of them I think are misplaced. And I think as I've become reflective and have navigated and have engaged with more of them, I can see my era in my harsher critiques and developed a greater appreciation. But I want to thank you for that, because many of them who have even come to the hip hop panel, man, they've spoken very glowingly of you and the way you've handled them. Because I think as some of them age out, they feel displaced, they feel underappreciated, and you've done a phenomenal job of making them feel seen, along with the young people who we often engage regularly. So thank you, my brother.
well, thank you. And thank you for having me. I think that is going back to bringing it on back to the platform and the concept of hip politics. Like the idea was before I got to it started while I was in Congress and when I took a break and came back. But hip hop now being 52-ish years old, we just celebrated 50 years ago, a couple. Now that means there's 3, 4, 5 generations. You got Dr. Dre, whose music me and my dad were just watching. Dr. Dre What music is used on a commercial during the college football
Yeah.
playoffs just now. Dr. Dre is 60 plus years old.
Wow. Is
Dr.
that
Dre
right?
is Dr. Dre is 60 years old.
Wow.
Jay-Z 55. But you got also the offsets, you've got also the little
Mhm.
techers, you've got also
Mhm.
the Fabio Foreigns out of New York. You got the even white guys like Jack Harlow who's in their early 20s. You got
Oh,
people who are topping the charts. I mean, even some of the biggest ones, the Kendricks, the
mhm.
Future,
Yes,
Chris
sir.
Brown, um, Kendrick. I mean, I'm sorry, Drake. They're
Yes,
all
sir.
in their late 30s or almost 40 themselves. So
Mm.
if you think about Lil Baby, is 28, 29, 30. So you got
Wow.
hip hop as a culture
Mhm.
is now has matured so much where
Mm.
you've got the LLs and the Eminems and and
Hello.
then even before that, the Wu Tangs and the KRS Ones, the Eric Sermons, and
Yes, sir.
folks who are at every level. You got people in their 60s,
Mm.
50s, 40s, 30s, 20s, and in
Mm.
their teens, just getting their first songs and first mixtapes and first albums out, all competing, not competing, but all contributing in their spaces with
Mhm.
music, with culture, with TV and content. So I think that as a culture it's forcing us to understand something we didn't have to do 10, 20, 30 years ago. And I'm
Sure.
hoping that plays over into politics as well, as that there is wisdom to be had. There
Yes,
is
sir.
there is there is wisdom and understanding to be had at the top end because you ask any 21-year-old hip hop artist, yo, you want Dr. Dre? Yeah, I want to be a classic, have $1 billion, have beats by Dre.
That's
They
right.
want the things that the elders have, but then there's also you hear older like, hey, you guys don't respect it, but they also want to be just as relevant. They want their music still popping. They want things still moving. So I think what the culture allows us to do offers a blueprint of how we can also do this in politics and in policy because this is all our of America's.
That's right.
This is everybody's. Whether you 8 or 80,
Come on.
this is everybody's America. This is everybody's world. Like
That's
we
right.
all got to be here and coexist. So I think the platform. I'm hoping. I'm praying. I'm finding the next couple young men and women in politics because like this isn't about me. This has always been to be a platform. Your politics
Mm.
is a platform. So
Mhm.
I'm actively searching for the next generation to build a show around, build more
Yes, sir.
content around, build people and just and pour into because we want this thing to keep going. So thank you again. I appreciate it. I know I will see you whether in Indiana, DC, on the road somewhere. We're gonna see each other
Already.
sometime soon. But thank you so much. Thank
What
you
an
for
honor.
joining the podcast.
Thank
And
you.
thank you to all the Hip Politics listeners. Make sure you like and subscribe. Share this interview and others with your folks all across, whether you catching us on YouTube or an audio. Follow us at Hip Politics, hip_politics. Make sure you catch out our 2026 new merch line. We've got some new shows. I'm excited. We're going to be announcing really soon and new stuff throughout 2026. So stay tapped in, Hip Politics family. And with that, we are out. Peace.
Hip politics, baby.